जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 His divine grace of Hare Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Vallabha ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki jai, Granth Raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Gunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadhutam Vaijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Ravita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhurevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Gyanadishe Namaha. Panchatattvaatmakam Krishna Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Pramanamamalam Premapumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatradarahana Paraha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanusute Pranamami Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Where is Aditya? You play very nicely, Mridanga. Just perfect. Many times those who play Mridanga pull the singer ahead or pull him back. They go faster or slower. But his speed and tal, so everything was right. Kirtan is so important for us. So it is very important that we play and sing right. Of course, for chanting of the holy names, it is not simply musical skill that is important. It is devotion that is important. But nevertheless, where there is devotion, we try to do the best we can. To do whatever we are doing for Krishna nicely, properly. So if we are playing kartal, we try to learn how to play kartal properly. Similarly with Mridanga. Similarly singing. We may be able to sing well or maybe not, but we should try our best. And I have witnessed that those who do not know how to sing learn how to sing fairly well simply by practice. And Krishna gives the empowerment and the mercy by which one can do wonderful things. So we are going to talk about the glories of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We have all, as devotees of Lord Krishna, heard about the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Not just heard about it, we hear it regularly, every day. It is so important that Srila Prabhupada introduced the recitation and hearing of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as a daily morning activity in all our temples. He considered that to be a must. Because the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is not an ordinary book. Sarva Vedanta Sarham hi Shri Bhāgavatam ishyate tad Rasamrita triptasya nanyatrasya rati kvachit. This Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the essence of all the Vedanta. Vedanta consists of two words, Veda and Anta. Veda means the Vedic knowledge. Anta means the end or the conclusion. I think you're standing. Would like to come, maybe you can come from ahead and come here. Maybe there's space here. You can come from this door. Come from this door and there is space here. We can manage. Maybe you can come like this. And there's even a place on the stage somebody can sit. Or I don't mind someone sits here. And gives the class even. Here also, somebody, there is place. So in case someone else comes, they can open here. Yes, so what were we saying?
Vedanta.
The Vedanta. So Anta means the end or the conclusion. So the Vedanta is the conclusion of the entire Vedic knowledge. But still the Vedanta Sutra is extremely difficult to understand because it is very cryptic. Almost like a puzzle, like a riddle. It's very hard to understand what exactly it means. So this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the essence of that Vedanta. In other words, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the essence of the conclusion of the Vedic teachings. What more do we want? And then, tad rasamrita triptasya, for one who is satisfied by, I think we need to do something about the children, yes? So tat rasamrita triptasya means that for one who is completely satisfied by the amrita, by the nectar of this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, na anyatra syat rati kvachit. Why would he or she get attracted to any other scripture or any other book? There is no need. This Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is sufficient in and of itself. It is the one book you would like to have if you were, God forbid, stranded on a proverbial desert island and you wanted something with you. Yes, take the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam with you. You can pass your whole life very gainfully and become a pure devotee of the Lord, even if you're all alone in the world. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is also the essence of all the Puranas. Ninna ganam yatha ganga, devanam achyuto yatha, vaishnavanam yatha shambhu, purananam idam tatha. The Bhagavatam itself declares that just as of all the bodies of water that flow down, which means the rivers from the mountains to the sea, the Ganga is the foremost. Just as amongst all the deities or divinities, Achyuta or Lord Krishna is the foremost. Just as amongst all the Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is the foremost. Similarly, amongst all the Puranas, this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the foremost. Of course, there is a lot to say, and there are similar verses to this. And every time we read the Bhagavatam, we will recognize this and realize it. The Bhagavatam also declares that it is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam. It is the Brahma Samhitam, it is a literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chakra Sapata Samhitam. It was created or written or composed by the great saint Vyasadeva. Nishrayasaya lokasya dhanyam swastya janam mahat. So this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the most auspicious thing for the world, the cause of all victory. the cause of everything auspicious. So this is a sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sound incarnation. So even if we do not see Lord Krishna with our eyes face to face, if we hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, that is as good as seeing Krishna face to face, because there is no difference between the sound vibration representing Krishna and the form of Krishna, since Krishna is absolute. Actually, the sound representation is superior to the darshan of Krishna. This may sound surprising, because even people like Duryodhana, Shishupal, they saw Krishna face to face. But no love for the Lord developed in their heart. Rather, it increased their animosity and hostility towards Krishna. On the other hand, someone like Rukmini Devi or the wives of the Yajnik Brahmanas on the border of Mathura and Vrindavan had never seen Krishna, they had only heard of Krishna. Every day they would hear the narrations of Krishna's glories, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in short. And just by hearing, they became pure devotees of Krishna. So we can see that hearing the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is by far more important than desiring to have the Lord appear before us in person so that we can see Him face to face. As far as fulfilling our desires to see the Lord face to face, He has very kindly manifested in the form of the deity. And that is available, that opportunity and facility is available to every one of us, and we should take full advantage of it. At the same time, the hearing of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is very important. As we know, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam was narrated by Shukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit when King Parikshit had been cursed to die in 7 days. And along with King Parikshit, there were many other sages who had assembled there. Word had spread like wildfire all over the universe, even though there was no internet and there were no mobile phones. But there were supernatural, transcendental methods of communication which were far more potent than today's internet. And sages came from not only different parts of the earth, but even from the higher planetary systems, because they knew something very historic is going to happen. Shukadeva Goswami, the great devotee of the Lord, is going to narrate the great literature, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and we don't want to miss it. We want to be a part of this historic occasion. We want to hear it and perfect our life. So they all descended from different parts of the universe on some of the other pretext. And they came and sat there. In this assembly was Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami was also, in Suta Goswami's own words, a surrendered disciple of Shukadeva Goswami. Suta Goswami heard this dialogue with great care and attention. He memorized the whole thing simply because he heard it once. Because Kali Yuga had just about begun and the good effects of the early age had still not completely disappeared. In the early ages, it was possible, and indeed it was the regular thing for sages to hear and remember immediately. So Suta Goswami remembered whatever he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami, the whole conversation. And when he had been traveling and he reached Naimisharanya, and sages led by Shaunaka Muni approached him and requested him to speak about Lord Krishna, then he reproduced practically the entire conversation verbatim. And he also responded to the questions specifically asked by Shaunaka Rishi, who is representing the other sages there. So in the Padma Purana, there is the glories of the Bhagavatam that has been narrated in the Uttarakhanda. In it we hear of Sutta Goswami approaching Shukadev Goswami. I think it's better we have the children in one room and someone can look after them, yes? So that everyone can hear the Bhagavatam very peacefully. They can have their own version of the Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Someone can tell them stories from the Bhagavatam. So, Sutta Goswami approached, Shaunaka Rishi approached Sutta Goswami and he said, "Oh great sage, your knowledge is so profound that it is like thousands of suns that can dissipate the entire ignorance of the world. Please tell us what is necessary for the people of this age to perfect their life. What kind of sadhana or spiritual practice should they do in order to keep Maya or illusion away? What is necessary for us to hear in order to strengthen our spirit of discrimination so that we have more faith and more knowledge about the process of devotion and renunciation? Please tell us more about the nectarian pastimes and glories of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. We are very eager to hear all these topics from your lotus mouth." So Sutta Goswami heard this question, heard this request with great happiness. Wherever there are requests to hear more about Krishna, it is very pleasing to the devotees. We also see in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that Sutta Goswami had congratulated the sages when they asked him similar questions, which were very good questions about Krishna. And he said, "Muniha sadhu prishtoham bhavatbhir lokamangalam yat kritaha Krishna samprashno yena atmasu prasidati." He said, "My dear sages, well done, sadhu, sadhu, well said. Your questions are indeed very, very pertinent, very relevant, very important, because they pertain to Lord Krishna. And they are for the purification and the well-being of the entire world. So questions about Lord Krishna will elicit answers about Lord Krishna, and both the questions and answers are very purifying for the entire world." So again here, Sutta Goswami was very happy to hear the questions of Shaunaka Rishi, who was representing the sages at Naimisharanya. So he said, "My dear Shaunaka Muni, yes indeed, the glories of Lord Krishna are unlimited. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is that glorious scripture that was spoken through the lotus lips of Shukadev Goswami. And now I will try to convey to you the conclusions of that great literature. I will try to convey to you the conclusions of all knowledge, whereby one's devotion to the Supreme Lord will be awakened. And it is only such devotion that actually pleases the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. So I will narrate to you about how Shukadev Goswami was preparing to start delivering his discourse on the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And then he narrates something that happened, an incident that happened that is not to be found in the regular Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. This is there in the Padma Purana. So Sutta Goswami says, as Shukadev Goswami was about to begin the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, all of a sudden the demigods approached Shukadev Goswami. The sages had been sitting, Parikshit Maharaj was there, now the demigods came. They came with a pot of celestial heavenly nectar, the Amrit. Now you all know the story of the churning of the milk ocean. You know how the demons and demigods both were very desirous of obtaining this heavenly Amrit, by which one could become practically immortal. Not actually immortal, but practically immortal, meaning that one's lifespan would be very, very long. The demigods are sometimes called Amara. Amar means Amara. Mara means to die. Amara means one who does not die. So Amar means one who is immortal. The demigods are not actually immortal. But because in comparison to the lifespan on earth, their lifespan is so large, from our point of view, their lives are practically, they're almost immortal. So for all practical purposes, they are immortal, but not actually so. So desirous of lengthening their spans of life, both the demons and demigods had been churning the milk ocean. And then from the 8th canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, you know the pastime of how many other things emerged. First of all, there was the poison which Lord Shiva took and held in his throat, because of which he is called Nilakantha. His throat became blue. And finally, the nectar came. And the demigod snatched it away. The demons snatched it away. The demigods were very sorry. The Lord assumed the form of the Mohini avatar, a bewitchingly beautiful feminine form of the Supreme Lord, who beguiled the demons and snatched away, very intelligently took away the pot of nectar and gave it back to the demigods. So the demigods then got this nectar which they partook. So their lives became very, very long. So now they had preserved some of that nectar. And they came to Shukadeva Goswami and said, please give this heavenly nectar to King Parikshit. Let him take this Amrit and you give us the Amrit or the nectar of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So let's exchange places. We want that Bhāgavatam nectar. You please give it to us. Yes, the demigods are very intelligent. They understood the value of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. They understood that there are two kinds of nectar. The nectar that they would drink, which was very delicious, ambrosial, which could lengthen their lifespan, but it was still material. And on the other hand, you had another kind of nectar, which was spiritual, even more delicious to the ears and the heart, and which would eventually give them the greatest treasure of Krishna Prema, the love of Godhead, and which would take them to the spiritual world and actually make them immortal. The very word Amrita also means the same thing. Mrita means dead, means not. So that which gives us victory over death is called Amrita. The Amrit of the demigods does not give us victory over death, because even the demigods have to eventually die. But the Amrita of Krishna consciousness, of hearing the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, that will actually give us complete, everlasting life in the spiritual world. Therefore in the Bhāgavatam it is said, Pibanti ye bhagavatatmanah satam kathamritam shravanaputeshu sambhitam punanti te vishaya vidushitashayam vrajanti tacharna saroruhantikam. It says, Pibanti ye bhagavatatmanah satam. So those satam, Bhagavata satam, those great devotees of the Lord, who are on the path of truth, the path of pure devotion, who drink with their ears the nectar of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Pibanti. Pibanti means to drink. Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmanah Satam. So those who drink this nectar, Kathamritam, the Katha or the talks of the Supreme Lord are Amrita. And those who drink it with their ears, and in what way do they drink it? Do they drink it in a miserly fashion? Just a trickle at a time or a drop at a time? No, Sambritam, who fill their ears with this nectar. Sometimes we see when somebody is very hungry and they get some food or drink to have, you've seen them eating. They really stuff their mouth, yes? When they really relish or realize the value of this and how much they need it, then they stuff their mouths with it. So this nectar is to be received with the ears. The nectar of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Therefore it's called the Kathamritam. Katha Amrita. Shravana Puteshu. In the holes of the ears. Sambhritam, filled. So we should fill our ears with the nectar of Krishna Katha. In other words, one should always hear. One should hear it more and more on a daily basis. So one who does that, punantite, becomes purified. Purified of what? Vishaya vidushitashayam. Vishaya refers to the worldly objects of pleasure, the objects of sense pleasure in this world. It's called Vishaya. Vishaya and Visha. In Sanskrit there are two words. Vishaya refers to the object and specifically to the sense objects in this world, which we like to enjoy, and enjoying which Prabhupada called that as sense gratification. And the other hand there is Vish. Vish means poison. So the Acharyas have explained that both are dangerous, Vishaya as well as Visha. But of the two, which is more dangerous? How many say Vishaya is more dangerous? Raise your hand. Okay, how many say Visha or poison is more dangerous? Raise your hands. All are very intelligent, self-realized souls. So everyone has understood the essence. So why is Visha less dangerous than Vishaya? Because Vish or poison can cause death, but only of one body. If I take poison now, then this body will be destroyed, that's all. But I will get another body, and then another body, and another body. So Vish destroys only one body. But Vishaya, the more I indulge myself in gratifying my senses in forgetfulness of Krishna, I will have to take birth after birth after birth. So that will destroy millions of bodies. And this will destroy only one body. So Vishaya Vidushitashayam. Vidushitashayam refers to those wrong desires, polluted desires for sense enjoyment. So by filling our ears with the nectar of Krishna Katha, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we will purify our heart of all the polluted desires for sense enjoyment. And then what happens after that? Vrajanti tat charana saroruhantikam. Then one goes to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna in the spiritual world. One will attain the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. One will become truly immortal. One will get the true amritatva, the immortality, the nectar of being in Krishna's association in the spiritual world. So the demigods could understand this. You see, the demigods are also devotees. some of them are pure devotees. But most of them are not pure devotees. They have desires for sense enjoyment along with their devotion for Krishna. They want to serve Krishna, and in their position as demigods, as administrators of the universe, they are representing Krishna. So they are dutifully serving Krishna. They even like the congregational chanting of the holy names. They like to glorify Krishna, but they also want their own power, their own position, their own opulence, and their own heavenly delights. They want that as well. Therefore, they are not considered pure devotees. They are considered mixed devotees, Mishra Bhakta. Mishra means mixed. But still, because they were devotees, they understood the value of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, so they came with a pot to Śrīmad Goswami. Let's make a deal, O Śrīmad Goswami. Here is a wonderful heavenly nectar. Maharaj Parikshit has come to you because he has been cursed to die in 7 days. He is a youthful king. He has all the opulences at his disposal. He is the king of the whole world. He is afraid of death. So please give him this heavenly nectar. He will be saved from death. He will be happy. And at the same time, we will get this nectar of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So Śrīmad Goswami became a little annoyed. He said, how dare you compare the two types of nectar? Can you compare a broken piece of glass with a priceless diamond? Is there any standard to compare it? The two just cannot be compared because there is so much difference between the two. Where is the broken piece of glass that lies in the street unnoticed by anyone? And where is that transcendental or that wonderful gem or jewel which is priceless? Similarly, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is a priceless jewel. You cannot put a price to it. You cannot compare it with anything of this world, anything material. It is even an offense to compare something spiritual to something material. Something devotional to something non-devotional. Simply prolonging one's life without being devoted to Krishna is futile. It's a waste. What is the use? After all, as the Bhagavatam declares, there are many trees which are hundreds and even thousands of years old. So if living long is a sign of success, one might as well be a tree. There are other types of animals like tortoises and so on which live a very long life. So if long life is what we want, we can be a tortoise or a tree. But it is not the quantity of life that is important. It is the quality of life. And quality means there must be devotion. So one should not compare a short life of pure devotion with a long life of material success but no devotion. There is no comparison. So we have to see things from this devotional point of view. So Śrīmad Goswami said, no, how is this possible? A broken piece of glass and a transcendental jewel. Dhruva Maharaj himself has said the same thing. Dhruva Maharaj had wanted a kingdom that was greater than the kingdom of his grandfather Brahma. Great-grandfather Brahma. Now what can be a greater kingdom than Brahma's kingdom? I mean, Brahma is in charge of the whole universe. So what could be a greater kingdom? But 5-year-old Dhruva was so determined. He wanted that at any cost. Even Narad Muni came to test him, to test his determination. And Dhruva passed in flying colors. Finally, Narad Muni initiated him into the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. For 6 months, Dhruva Maharaj did such penance, which we cannot even dream of in this age. And finally, the Lord appeared before him. As soon as Dhruva Maharaj saw the Supreme Lord in front of him, his heart overflowed with love for the Lord. Tears of devotional ecstasy flowed from his eyes. He was stunned in ecstasy, he could not utter a word. Then very mercifully the Lord touched his conch shell to the head of Dhruva Maharaj. Nowadays you have all these sophisticated digital equipment. I don't even understand their names or to speak of understand how they work. But I know the old days we would have those gramophone record players. That I remember very well. And they had a stylus. And the record would move, and when the stylus would touch, then there would be a song or whatever it was in the gramophone record. So I can relate to that, not so much to the modern iPads and iPods, iPhones. Somebody said, would you like an iPhone? So I said, I know phone. I enough phone. More than enough phone. I am more than fed up phone. So anyway, so when the Lord touched his conch shell, which is meant for the devotees, the lotus is also meant for the devotees, but the disc is meant, and the club are meant for the demons. So the conch shell he placed on Dhruva Maharaj's head. It was as if the stylus was placed. And immediately Dhruva Maharaj started speaking wonderful prayers in glorification of Krishna. Just started flowing effortlessly from his mouth because he was now empowered by the divine spiritual energy from the Lord himself. And he went on glorifying Krishna. And then one of the verses that he spoke was Sthana bhilashe tapase sthitoham Tvam praptavan deva munindra guhyam Kacham vichinvan abhidivya ratnam Swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache. Dhruva Maharaj said, when the Lord asked him for a benediction, he said, my dear Lord, I don't want any benedictions. I am completely satisfied, merely because I have seen you now. It is true that when I came here to do penance, I had many material desires. And I had big time material desires. I wanted a kingdom bigger than the kingdom of Brahma. Sthanabhilashi. So I was desiring a very high position, due to which tapasi sthitoham, I situated myself in very strong penance. And then, tvam praptavam, I obtained you. Deva munindra guhyam, who are very difficult to achieve, even for the demigods and the great sages. But I was fortunate that I obtained you. And now that I have obtained you, kacham vichinvan api divyaratnam, I feel I have obtained a transcendental jewel, divyaratnam. And I also feel that the goal or the object of my penance, for which I had come to you in the first place, the rulership of the entire universe, is like a broken piece of glass. So Dhruva Maharaj considered the entire universe and its lordship to be as insignificant as a broken piece of glass. So these are very factual comparisons or contrasts. So Shukadeva Goswami, the Padma Puran said, actually made fun of the demigods and sent them away. Nothing doing. I cannot give this to you. You go away. You don't deserve to hear the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. You still want your Apsaras and your Nandana Kanana gardens and your Somaras and so on and so forth. So this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is not for you. Sri Parikshit Maharaj, yes, he is the right candidate. He has given up everything and he has surrendered and come here to listen with faith and devotion, with no expectation. So then, Shukdev Goswami ripped off the demigods and began speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. The demigods went away and they began to discuss amongst themselves. My word, this Bhagavatam is so precious. We always knew it was very great, but now we understand how great it is. The 7 days of recitation were over. King Parikshit attained the perfection of life just by hearing the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam for 7 days. The creator of the universe, Brahma, heard this and he became astonished that Parikshit Maharaj perfected his life simply by hearing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam for 7 days. So he wanted to understand the glories of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So he said to the demigods, let's arrange a large weighing scale. So a weighing scale was brought. On one scale, he placed the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And on the other scale, he placed all the other scriptures and all the other processes of liberation, like karma, jnana, yoga, vairagya, and all those other processes he kept on the other side. And the scale which had the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam tipped strongly. It was much heavier than the other scale. So all the demigods were even more astonished. And they began to glorify the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as if they had 1,000,000 mouths. And then they were talking about how they could hear the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. In the meanwhile, Sutta Goswami Shaunaka Rishi continued to ask Sutta Goswami that how is it that Narad Muni, whom the demigods have said heard from the Kumaras, how did he hear the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam? Because the demigods had been talking among themselves that Narad Muni, the sages amongst the demigods, had heard this from the 4 Kumaras. So Sutta Goswami said that actually, even though Narad Muni had heard the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from his father and spiritual master Brahma, he once again heard it from the 4 Kumaras. And he heard it in a proper way, at length. If you remember, the Lord spoke the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam to Brahma in just 4 verses, the Chatushloki Bhagavat. And then Brahma spoke it to Narad Muni. He elaborated somewhat, but not so much. But when Narad Muni heard it from the 4 Kumaras, it was full of nectar. So now, Shaunaka Rishi wanted to know how it was that the 4 Kumaras spoke the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam to Narad Muni. So Sutta Goswami then began to narrate that one time the 4 Kumaras were at Badrinath, and there they met Narad Muni. Narad Muni is a great devotee. He's always chanting Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So he was always happy. So when a devotee seems unhappy, then that's something funny, because how is that possible? How can a devotee be unhappy? A devotee must be very happy like all of you. So when the 4 Kumaras saw Narad Muni looking very morose, very despondent, they were curious and they were concerned. So they went up to Narad Muni and said, "My dear Narad Muni, O great sage, why is it that you, as a great devotee of Lord Krishna, are looking so morose and sad? It appears that you look like a person who has just lost all his wealth and become poverty-stricken. But you are beyond such mundane things. So why is it that you are happy, you are so sad now? So Narad Muni began to narrate the story of his woes. He said, yes, I will tell you why I am so unhappy. I came down to the earth from the higher planets because I wanted to see the glorious holy places on the earth. I had heard so much about these holy places. But when I came down to earth and I visited these holy places like Pushkar, Gaya, and Badrikashram even, and many, many other places, Prayagraj, Setubandha, Varanasi, I found that the situation is quite different. It's not what I expected. I was expecting these holy places would be vibrant with spiritual energy and devotion for Lord Krishna. Everything would be just so transcendental and joyful. But what I found over there in these holy places was completely opposite to what I expected. It appears that the friend of irreligion, Kali Yuga, has taken firm hold over the people of the earth. I see that the principles of austerity, mercy, cleanliness, and truthfulness and charity are no longer followed by the people of this earth. Without exception, they have taken to the process of lying. They tell lies very easily in Kali Yuga now. And they consider filling their bellies to be the most important activity. And not only that, they have become very lazy. They have become misguided, unfortunate. In the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam also, it is declared, Prayanal Payusha Sabhya Kalo Vasmin Yuge Janaha Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hi Upatrataha. In this Kali Yuga, most people are very short-lived. Prayana Alpa Ayusha. Alpa means less, very little. Ayusha means lifespan. So mostly people have very short lifespans in Kali Yuga, at the most 100 years. And nowadays perhaps only an unfortunate person lives till 100. Who wants to live till 100 in Kali Yuga and have so many difficulties and diseases and whatnot? They are misguided, they are dull-headed, they have no interest in spiritual life, they are always disturbed. This is the situation of people in Kali. And Narad Muni corroborated that version. And he said, I saw so many people who dressed as saints, liked to be addressed as saints, but they were simply pretenders. And they would be simply interested in wealth, paraphernalia, power, and women. So therefore I was very disturbed looking at all this. And I saw that people are now selling their daughters out of greed. And the husbands and wives are forever quarreling. Sounds familiar? I hope not. This is a symptom of Kali Yuga. All the holy places, the holy rivers, the sacred sites like the temples are now inhabited by the Mlecchas and the Yavanas. All the temples are broken. And therefore, you don't find any transcendentally realized souls anywhere. So much so that now people are actually selling grains in the market. Yes, so this was something surprising for Narad Muni, that food would be sold. What to speak of food? Now we have water that is sold. What to speak of water? Now even air is being sold. To breathe fresh air, you have these oxygen things in Tokyo and many other places you can breathe. So he said, grains, people are actually selling grains in the marketplace. Narad Muni was horrified to see this. Then he said, Brahmanas are taking money for giving knowledge. He was shocked with that also. And he said, women are engaging in prostitution. So Narad Muni was horrified to see all this. And then he said, as I went on, I traveled to different parts. I was thoroughly disillusioned with all the holy places. And finally, I came to Vrindavan. Can I have a wristwatch, please? Thank you. Oh, it's 8:30, yeah? Good stop. Finally, he came to Vrindavan. And when he came there to Lord Krishna's pastime places, he saw on the banks of the Yamuna a curious sight. There was one young lady who was very beautiful, very pious looking, very devoted. And she had with her 2 elderly men. And there were also many other young ladies who were trying to serve her. This young lady was crying. She was in great grief and anxiety. She was wailing. And all these ladies were trying to serve her and console her, pacify her, but she was not to be pacified. So when Narad Muni came, he came close wondering, what is going on here? Who is this lady? Who are these 2 old men? Who are these ladies, other ladies here trying to serve this one lady? So Narad Muni came forward. And since Narad Muni is a famous personality all over the universe, who doesn't recognize him? So he was immediately recognized. And the lady welcomed him. Oh, great sage, Narad Muni, welcome. We are blessed to have your presence here. Please come here and relieve me of my extreme misery. I'm very, very sorrowful now because of my condition. So Narad Muni was surprised. He said, my dear lady, who are you? And who are these 2 elderly men with you? And who are all these other ladies who are trying to serve you? So the young lady said, I am Bhakti Devi. These ladies are all the personified holy rivers. There is Ganga, there is Godavari, there is Saraswati, there is Kaveri. They're all trying to serve me and pacify me. And these 2 old men, they are my sons. I am young and they are old. I was born in Dravida Desha in South India. Then I grew up in Karnataka, in the state of Karnataka, in South India. Then I moved northwards and I was respected very much in the state of Maharashtra. And then I came to the state of Gujarat and I was assaulted badly. My limbs were broken. And then I fled to Vrindavan. When I came to Vrindavan, then somehow, miraculously, I became all right. My body returned to normal, my limbs were healed. But my 2 sons, Gyan and Vairagya, knowledge and renunciation, who have become old along with me in Gujarat, they have remained old. So my dear sage, just look at my predicament. I, the mother, am a young lady, and my 2 sons are old men. What a tragedy. I have tried everything I could to revive them. My assistants here have tried everything to revive them, but they remain old, decrepit, weak. Narad Muni was surprised. He had never seen or heard of anything like this. How can a mother be young and the sons be very old? It has to be completely the opposite. But Narad Muni was a wise person. He understood what the whole reason was. And if you want to know the reason, and how Narad Muni explained it, And if you would like to know what happened thereafter to Bhakti Devi, and whether her two sons were actually revived or not, and whether Bhakti Devi's distress was alleviated or not, then you will have to attend the next session, which is going to be when? Muralidhar Prabhu? When is the next session?
Monday, Maharaj.
Monday.
6:30 to 7:30.
Okay, so Monday 6:30 to 7:30
And
will be the next part of the seminar.
And Tuesday 6:30 to 7:30.
And Tuesday also. So if you would like to know more about this wonderful dialogue, and there are many, many wonderful things that happen afterwards, so please do come on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama